Hello and welcome to another video. So now that I've watched all of the episodes, I can finally give you guys a review of the Netflix adaptation of the Shadow and Bone series. And without further ado, let's get into it. Category number 1 is the big changes that the show made from the books to the show.
Obviously.
We know. Okay, so first big change, everyone knows this, but I'm gonna mention it anyways, and that is the change to have the 6 of Ghost characters interact with the main cast from Shadow and Bone. And basically what this means is that even though they do not appear in any way, shape, or form during the first trilogy, they do make an appearance in the show, not only as a side storyline of them doing their own thing on Ketterdam, but what they are doing also intertwines with the main storyline of the Rovkans and of the characters from the Shadow and Bone series. Also, a big change they made in order to make this work is that they inserted a new character that didn't exist in the original series, and that is the guy, I'll put a picture over here, the conductor. Another one of the big changes, if you can call it a big change, is that the Darkling wasn't called the Darkling. He was called General Kerrigan, and that is because he wasn't advertised as the bad guy. That they wanted it to be kind of a twist, because if the guy is called the Darkling from the first episode, like, you know there's something wrong with that. You see him becoming a bad guy or already being a bad guy. So they called him that, and also they revealed his name in not the first episode, but the first season. And in the books, it doesn't happen until the 3rd book. So I thought that was a big change. Mostly because I feel like the show is trying to make the Darkling or Alexander more human from the beginning. And the final big change that they made is that instead of just being the show from Alina's point of view, which is what we get throughout the whole trilogy because it's her point of view, only hers, except from the beginning and the very end of the book, so the prologue and whatever the other thing is called. So basically in the show, we do have the crows as a point of view, but in the army, in the Shadow and Bone characters, we get 2 other points of views, and that is Mal's, which is also very important because it changes his character radically, especially the way that we as the audience perceive him, and we also get a bit of the Darkling's point of view. Less so, but a much bigger amount that we get in the series. Now that we have seen the bigger changes that they made, let's nitpick the smaller changes and discuss them, shall we? Okay, small change number 1 that probably a lot of people forgot about. Where the heck is Patrikios? Patrikios is Cass's boss. He is the one that founded not the Crow Club, but the gang, the Dregs. You know, where is he? He is supposed to be an older guy who doesn't do anything anymore, relies on his old glories, and then he hired Cass, and Cass is the one who is taking over, and he's the young leader that everyone kind of like listens to now, but the other one is the figurehead, and outwardly he is the leader. So where is he? I know that they want to make Cass seem like larger than life and really cool, but if we don't have Patrikios, we don't have the conflict in Cricket Kingdom where Cass has to fight to get his gang back that he rebuilt from nothing. So I feel like not the best decision, but we'll have to see if they get to that part of the storyline. Because if they don't get to Cricket Kingdom, then I guess it doesn't really matter, but also not having Patrikios means that we have a gigantic change with Tante Helene and Inesh's indenture, because in the books, Patrikios buys Inesh's indenture, and then Inesh stays in Ketterdam because she has to pay that indenture back, but she decides to go with Patrikios instead of Tante Helene because, I mean, she doesn't have to sell her body against her will to pay the indenture, so it was a really big win for her. But instead, in the show, what they did is that Cass bought like a fraction of her indenture, and then he still has to pay her, and he doesn't have like her full indenture. So in some ways, Inesh is still tied to the menagerie. Another small change that I don't know if it will come back into play is that Inesh mentions she has a brother. I don't remember this, but I think that she was the only one taken in the books, regardless if she had a brother or not, but I don't know if it'll come up, probably, because why would they mention it anyway? She could have just said that she was looking for her parents. Another big change that I grouped with the small changes, but actually, I mean, it is kind of like a small change, but it has a big impact on the story, and that is that both Mal and Alina are biracial. Mal, I think he's supposed to be half Rafkan and half Semini, I'm guessing, and then Alina is half Rafkan, half Shu, and there is this whole anti-Shu propaganda all over the military that is horrible, and that is also very, like, on point to what is happening in the world right now with a lot of anti-Asian hate, and I thought that was like, damn, it was very on point with current events. All in all, I think that change added a lot to the story. It gave a lot more depth to Alina's character because we could see all of these microaggressions and plain out racism in the army and in other places, and how it had affected her into believing that she was kind of like always an outcast and always had to fight for her place, and then that kind of like mirrored her storyline in the Little Palace. So I really liked that. I thought it added so much more depth to her character and Mal's character, and also their relationship with each other. So I really liked that. I really enjoyed that change. And then finally, the other small change that they made is that Pekka Rollins is extremely out of character. Pekka Rollins is like very pompous. He is very new money, wants to flaunt it. He wants to be respected like a merchant, even though he isn't. He is a gang lord, so, you know, kind of a big difference. But here, he looks like a common thug that just wants to intimidate people by using brute force. And that is not who Pekka Rolling is. He's much more intimidating. Next up, let's talk about the army characters, aka the Shadow and Bone characters and their storyline. Okay, so let's go character by character. First of all, I want to talk about Mal, because they made Mal so much more likable than the Mal in the books. I feel like this is something that they really wanted to do. So the question is, after watching this show, does Mal deserve rights? Yes, he deserves all the rights. He was so cute. He was obviously such a good friend to Alina. I feel like that was what was missing in the books, that he didn't feel like he cared as much about Alina like Alina did for him, but it just felt like he really cared about her, and they were good friends, and they had like a good banter and dynamic going. So I really like them so much more in the show than I did in the books. I feel like they did that really well, so I'm very happy that show Mal is 100 times better than book Mal. So good for you, Netflix. You got one character really right.
Speaking about Mal, I also really liked his two friends. That scene with the deer poop was hilarious, and I loved them every second they were on screen. Their deaths were so sad. I knew they were coming in Fjerda, but they were so sad. They, like, every scene they were in, it just brightened up my day.
So next up, we have our girl, Alina, the protagonist of this show. Supposedly, she is. And I feel like they also made her more likable. They made her more, like, independent, because she chose to be on the skiff, unlike with the book, and also more brave from the start. So I really liked her character. Her character arc was very nice, so I really appreciated that, and I really liked the actress. I really liked her, which then takes us to the Darkling, whom they also try to make not more likable, but more human. They try to get us to have more empathy for him from the beginning.
Especially with that, like, 20-minute flashback they gave him in one of the last episodes. I feel like they really wanted him to make a very layered villain, and I really appreciated that.
Especially Ben Barnes, man. He has so much charisma that it just oozes out of him. He was so believable as General Kerrigan, so I really liked him. He had, like, a great portrayal of the character, which then leads us to, like, the more side characters of the army, and those are Genya, who I really liked how she was portrayed. I wish she had a bigger role, because I felt like she was kind of underused, but she is going to get a bigger role in the second season if they do it like they did it in the books. And then we have David, whom I think was underutilized, but the times he was on screen, that actor was giving it 110%, so I really appreciate it. I really liked him. I thought he was great in the role, and now I kind of want to see more from him and Genya, which is something I never thought I would say. And then finally, we have Soya. And what can I say about Soya?
Well, ever since I read The King of Scars duology, I have been simping so hard for Soya because she is the best. She's incredible and I love her with all of my heart. She is incredible. But in the show, I thought she was good. Okay, she could have been better. Sometimes, like, are you really telling me that Cass Brecker can beat Soya? I know that he just got lost in the crowd, but
I did not like that she was so desperate to be with the Darkling. I get that that makes sense for her because the Darkling freaking sucks and he makes women like depend on him and feel like he is the best and that they should super look up to him and want his approval of everything. And I really hate the Darkling, but Soya, I loved her and I want to see more from her.
Where are the languages? Why are Kirch and Rothka the same language? They even have the same accent, like the same weird British accent. Where are the languages?
Moving on to the Six of Crows characters. So much to talk about. Okay, first of all, this might offend some people, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and that is that I love the Six of Crows characters, but I feel like they should have taken them out of the story. I know, it sounds awful because we all love them, and more people love them than the Shadow and Bone characters, but they really had zero impact on the story until episode 6, and then they had no impact for episode 7, and then again they had a small tiny impact on episode 8. But if you took them out of the plot, everything else would be the same. Maybe they would need a little bit more help, like Alina wouldn't have found a surprise carriage to sneak into the trunk of at episode 6, but all in all, they had no freaking impact on the main plot for like the bigger part of the story, and that really irked me because if they weren't going to have an impact, I wish they would have just had like a parallel story to them that didn't intersect with it. Like they could have been doing a heist of their own and not have anything to do with them kidnapping Alina because we knew it wasn't gonna happen because obviously the writers didn't want to disturb the storyline of Shadow and Bone too much, but they also wanted to have the Six of Crows characters. So basically they wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and I don't think it worked really well. Okay, first of all, I have to mention, I loved every single one of their outfits. Like, their disguises, incredible. I feel like they tried to make Cass less of an asshole, especially towards Inesh, too soon. Because we get that in Six of Crows, but that is years from now on the show. So I feel like they tried to give him development too soon, because if they developed him into not such a monster so soon, then what are you gonna do with him when it's time for him to get his actual development, you know? I don't think Cass, before Six of Crows, would ever apologize in any way, shape, or form to Inesh, and he does in one of the first episodes. He was really well written for the most part, but that part was just like, no. The bastard of the barrel would not apologize, even to the Wraith.
Like, oh my god, at the beginning of Six of Crows, Cass, like, has a bleeding, dying Inesh in his arms, and he refuses to say he's sorry. So you're telling me that without the threat of the Wraith dying, Cass would just say he's sorry? And they haven't even known each other for so long, so no, I don't think that would happen.
And then we did get really good Inesh and Cass interactions, I must say. I loved it. The whole trio dynamic was incredible. Every time they were on screen, I just felt their friendship and their dynamic was really, really good. I especially really liked Inesh with Jesper. You could see that they were friends and that they were on more equal terms than any of them were with Cass, so I really liked that. And I really liked it when she called Jesper Jazz. It's just chef's kiss.
And Jesper, every time he was on screen, he was like stealing the scene, stealing the show. The spotlight was on him. He was incredible. The best one-liners. Jesper with Milo the goat was incredible. Did not expect it, but I loved it.
Matthias and Nina and their scenes. Okay, so they appear for the first time, I feel like, during episode 2 or during episode 7. Nina is definitely mentioned in episode 2 because the crows are looking for her, because the conductor works with her, and I hate it. No, I think it's episode 3. Never mind, it's episode 3 because I wrote down that in episode 3, I hated Nina. First of all, I didn't like her hat. It just offended me. Second of all, I hated that they told us that she was not a soldier of the Little Palace. It felt like such a betrayal to her character.
Because when she meets Matthias, the thing that they can relate to the most, and why they can never truly be together, is that they're both soldiers, that they're just fighting for the opposite sides of the war. And that's what draws them together, and that's what draws them apart. And I hated that they weren't equals on that front. But then we're told that she was a spy, so la 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 la, it was all a lie, misdirect. Thank God, because I was so mad that they had ruined her character.
So this is what I feel like they should have done. They have overall, I think, like a maximum of 30 minutes of screen time. So why couldn't they have just taken that, condensed it into a cohesive 30-minute half of an episode? They could have just have it all together, because having them be on screen for 4 minutes, every time they popped up, I was like, oh, they're still here and there's something still happening. It just didn't feel coherent. And finally, the last character from like the dregs, the conductor, I hated him. I thought he was a stupid addition. I mean, I know we had to find a way for the dregs to get through the fold and into Ravka, but I just thought, it's like...
If they could do that, wouldn't the Ravkans have freaking thought of it already?
Who put the freaking tracks there? That's what I don't get. Who put the tracks there? Because, I mean, if the tracks were already there, it would be very easy to cross.
Also, you probably haven't watched this video I made about predicting what was going to happen on each episode based on the episode titles, because no one watched it. But anyhow, I got like almost 90% of it right. So if you want to watch it, I'll link it up there because it's incredible. I looked back on it, I was like, I was almost entirely right. Like, I'm incredible.
I would give this show an overall like a B+. I thought it was really good, which you might not get from all the previous comments I made. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would watch it a second time already. I just really loved seeing my favorite characters. I'm just so happy because I don't like the Shadow and Bone trilogy that much. So I feel like they made it so much more enjoyable for me.
I am kind of worried about if they get to the Six of Crows books, because I don't want them, I don't know how to say this, I don't want the Shadow and Bone characters to appear in the Six of Crows section like the Six of Crows have appeared in the Shadow and Bone section. Like, I don't want them to have any impact on their story, because their story is so character focused that if we divide the attention between two different storylines, I feel like it won't be very good. So I don't know how they're gonna do that. Kind of scared, but...
Please leave a like if you like this video. Comment down below if you watched it and what was your favorite episode / moment of the whole show. And maybe, what are you mad about? Like, what are you mad about? Let's create some controversy down in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click that bell button so you get notifications every time I post. I post every Monday and Friday, so I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Also, forgot to mention this. Besides the Kefta, I also really want this mug that appeared next to Ben Barnes during the after party, the Netflix after party. Look at it. It's so beautiful. I want it. So if any of you knows like a link where I can get it, please leave it linked down below because I really want to get it.